Our next speaker is Indra Lahiri. Together with Johnny Brass, she runs Pennsylvania's only non-profit farm animal and all-species animal sanctuary, while sharing the animal stories through writing, film, photographs, and her blog, Indraloka. Our next presentation will be about how we can build up an animal sanctuary successfully. Indra will speak from her own experiences about the risks, realities, and rewards of starting a sanctuary. Welcome, Indra.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Before we get started, I'd like to see a show of hands. How many of you currently run an animal sanctuary? Okay, we've got one. Yay! How many people are planning to or hope to someday, dreaming of having a sanctuary, starting a sanctuary? Yeah, we've got more hands up. Good. Well, I want to encourage all of you to really think about whether this is the right thing for you, and if it is, please, please do it. I have a dream. It's a dream that everywhere in the world, animals will be free. That they'll be able to live just in joy and in peace in the way that they were born to live without anybody trying to make something of them or telling them what they need to do. And that's what happens on a sanctuary. What we need to do is build a network of sanctuaries around the world until one day there are so many of them that the whole world is a sanctuary. So that's what I hope that we do. Okay, the first thing I want to say to you is that I've been running Indraloka Animal Sanctuary for 10 years, and I've made a lot of mistakes. So I am here to share with you some of those mistakes and the things that I learned from them in the hopes that it won't be as difficult for you, that you won't need to struggle in the ways that I struggled, and that it'll be safer for the animals as a result of that as well. So I just want to share with you that none of us comes perfect. This is hard work. We're all going to make mistakes the whole way through. I'm not done making mistakes just because I've been doing this for 10 years. But I've learned a lot, and I want to just share that with all of you. So our agenda today, there's 5 major areas. We're not going to spend as much time on each. We could talk for weeks, even years, about running a sanctuary. So this is just going to be a glimpse at each one. We're going to start by talking about reflections of you, okay, and how the sanctuary and the animals are a reflection of you. The next thing we're going to do is talk about mind mapping, which is a wonderful tool for you to start dreaming and building and planning for the sanctuary. And it's also going to be a wonderful tool for you on a business level, planning your sanctuary as a business, because it is a business. You're going to have to find a way to bring in enough money to pay for all those animals, and boy, do they eat a lot. Okay, we're going to talk about fundraising and storytelling, okay, and how those two things are related. The 2 areas that we're going to spend the most time on, by the way, are reflections of you and the fundraising and storytelling. The other ones we're going to glance on as much as we have the opportunity to, and if there's more questions that we have after this, I'm going to share with you all my contact information. I'm happy to keep in touch with all of you and share with you anything else that I can. The next thing we're going to talk about is the daily work, and there is a lot of daily work. By the way, the fact that I've been running a sanctuary for 10 years means that I've been on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 10 years. Okay, it never ends. Right now my phone is on, and we're making sure that something doesn't happen at the sanctuary that we need to address. They'll text us, they'll call us, and we'll deal with it. Right? So it's good work, it's beautiful work, but it's hard work. And animal rescue is the last thing we're going to talk about, because you're not ready to start rescuing animals until you've got all the other things done. And by the way, I started in reverse. That's how I know that you're not ready to start rescuing animals until you do all this other work. So I started over here. And then I moved in to the point where I was finally realizing that I needed to clean up my own act before I could really do a good job with the sanctuary. And I'll talk to you about what I mean about that. Okay? So reflections of you. Most of the time, if people talk about running a sanctuary, the first question that they have is, well, how do I start finding land? And how do I start building barns and that kind of thing? And I want to just say, hold off, okay? You're not ready to start building anything until you've really done your own work. And I'm going to tell you why. There's a yogic reason and there's a scientific reason. So I'm going to talk about science first. Okay? Especially if you're thinking about farm animals, this is true, but it's going to be true with any type of animal that you want to have a sanctuary for. Animals can hear and smell much better than we can, okay? Farm animals in particular, because they're prey animals. So what that means is that they are designed biologically to know what is happening around them all of the time. They're very aware and alert, much more aware and alert than us pathetic two-leggeds are, right? So the reason that that's important is because a horse or a cow can actually hear your heartbeat. Further away than you can see the horse or the cow, they can hear your heartbeat. And they can smell. These animals can all smell, a pig especially, but all the animals can smell the hormones that we release when we have different feelings come up. Okay? So say you start rescuing animals and you're really angry. Okay? You're really angry at the way that those animals have been treated. That's going to affect your heart rate, and it's going to release hormones that's going to change your smell. And guess what? Those animals are not going to know what you're angry about. They're just going to know you're angry, and they're going to be scared. And they're not going to be able to get comfortable, and they're not going to be able to feel safe. You see what I mean by that? It's all going to come back to us, and we need to be taking care of our own selves to make sure that we're dealing with all of these issues, or the animals aren't going to have true sanctuary at your place. Okay. So when we talk about reflections of you, you need to think about your own health, your body, mind, and spirit. Okay. You need to think about your integrity. Okay? You're going to be faced with challenges all the time. You're going to be faced with questions all the time. I'll tell you one that I'm faced with right now. We have a lot of animals, which you will too if you're rescuing farm animals in particular, that have health problems. And so we don't have any holistic vets in the area where we are, and we need veterinary care often. So the vets come out and they treat the animals, and they're traditional vets. They want to use drugs. They want to use prescription drugs. Well, guess what? Those drugs were tested on animals. Do you not treat the animals that are in your care? Well, if you're treating the animals in your care, you're supporting the industry that tests on animals. You're going to be facing these issues all the time. Okay, that's going to lead into your philosophy and the sanctuary's values itself and how you want to run things, how you want to make decisions. Okay? The other thing that's really important in this area of reflections of you is a support system. You need a support system. I started this by myself, entirely by myself. I moved to the mountains with 50 animals alone. I was working to support them by myself. I did not want volunteers. I was not in a place in my life where I trusted any other human beings. That was hard. And guess what? You know, I was selfish. I was selfish doing that way because that wasn't the best thing for the animals, and we're going to talk more about that too. You need a support system. Who are the supporters? Well, your volunteers are going to be one, your friends and family, other activists coming to these conferences and getting the support of all of you and seeing all of the work that you're doing. We're also in the process of organizing a new thing called the Global Coalition of Farm Sanctuaries, and if you're a part of a farm sanctuary now, or if you want to have a farm sanctuary someday, I'm going to encourage you to join that. What we're going to be doing is networking and supporting with each other and finding ways to make it easier for each other. Okay. So early on, I had a goat named Hullabaloo. She was rescued at a very young age. She was still a little baby, and I loved her. She was this tiny little miniature goat. She was just so cute. She used to get into things all the time, which goats do. Goats are very intelligent. It's very hard to keep them in one place or tell them what to do. You know, I mean, they'll get into your house. They'll get into everywhere you don't want them to be. So I had this little goat named Hullabaloo, and I loved her, and she was smart, and she got out of the pen that she was in while I was in the other barn across the property cleaning a stall. And I had the dogs outside. So the dog saw a little goat running across the yard. The goat was running towards the other barn because she knew that there was food in the other barn that she wanted to go and eat. And the dogs, my dogs, who I love, who are my beloved friends, killed Hullabaloo. And I didn't even hear her screaming. So what does that have to do with me? Well, there's the practical level, right? I needed to be good enough at knowing how to prevent a goat from getting out when they're not supposed to get out. I needed to be smart enough to know that if I have predators and prey animals on the same property, I have to make sure that it's impossible for them ever to get to each other. But there was something deeper happening that I realized, and it took a lot of soul searching. Because this was the worst incident, I have to tell you, but there were other incidents of animals hurting each other. And I was trying to figure out what was happening. Why weren't they safe? So when these things are happening to you in a sanctuary setting, it's happening both outside of you and within you. What I realized was that I grew up in a household where both of my parents were war children. Their parents weren't able to keep them safe. When I grew up, for various other reasons, my parents weren't able to keep us safe. So there was a cycle. There was a generational cycle, and we could go back as far as we wanted to. There was a generational cycle in my family of parents not being able to keep children safe. And without realizing it, I was playing that out. Okay? So once I came to terms with that, I was able to literally just say, and I remember talking with a wise woman that I know about this and trying to figure out, I said, how do I stop this cycle? How do I make it end? And she said, just stop it. Just stop it. Don't allow it to happen anymore. Just stop. So both on a physical level, I had to get smart about keeping the animals safe, but on an energetic level, I had to make sure that it was over. It was ended. That cycle was done. That ends with me. So, and if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with the energetic idea, think of it on a psychological level, okay? Because if there's anything in you that believes, oh, I'm not capable of keeping these animals safe, right? Then that's going to cause you to make mistakes and not keep them safe. Does that make sense? Okay. So the animals in the sanctuary itself are going to mirror your internal landscape. So there's 3 things I want you to think about with this, okay? Unfortunately, the acronym that I use to remember it is FAT. It's not a good acronym, but first one is fear, okay? So your own internal fears. I was afraid I couldn't keep the animals safe, right? Or I was afraid that I wasn't going to be good enough at this work, or I was afraid of a million other things, right? You can't live in fear and run a sanctuary, A, because the animals are going to pick up on it and they're not going to be happy and comfortable. If they don't think you feel safe, then they don't feel safe, right? Because they know your heartbeat and they can smell your hormones. They know how you're feeling. So fear is one thing that you have to conquer. The other thing is anger, and what is anger but fear given voice, right? So remember, I just talked with you about it a second ago. If you're angry about the circumstances the animals came from, if you're resentful that nobody's helping you with the work, if you're resentful that society is the way it is, any of that kind of thing is going to come through. The animals are going to feel it. They're not going to feel comfortable. So fear, anger. The other one is truth, and what I mean by truth is your own truth. What is your truth? What do you truly believe? Why are you doing this? So, and that's for each one of us to figure out and decide. But you have to make very sure that whatever your truth is, you understand it and you are living it. You cannot afford to be conflicted when you're working with animals. You cannot afford to. They will not listen to you. They will not respect you. I'm telling you, when you're dealing with farm animals and, they're 1,300 pounds or 2,000 pounds, and they've been frightened before, and they've been in bad situations before, you can't afford it. You're going to get killed. Either that or the animals are going to get killed. So you need to be very, 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 very clear. And the reason that animals can pick up on that is because on a psychological level, when we feel conflicted at all, you could think of it psychologically, you can think of it energetically, when we feel conflicted at all, okay, we have things that hold us back in our behavior and our body language. Okay? And again, the way that they communicate primarily with each other is through body language and through scent. So they're going to pick up on all the subtleties that we as humans aren't as good at understanding and reading. We don't know ourselves as well as they know us. So that's why I say that it's really important to get clear on all of this first. So A lot of you did not raise your hands when I asked if you're dreaming of starting a sanctuary. And because of that, we're going to go through this self-assessment a little bit more quickly so that we can have time. Perhaps you're interested in some of the other areas. But we are going to take a little self-assessment to figure out if we're ready for this work. Okay. And the first thing that I want to say to you is that simply loving animals is not enough. That's how I started. And you know what? Again, I made a lot of mistakes, and thank goodness I was able to find a way. I was able to learn from each mistake and find a way. And guess what? We're here 10 years later, and we've saved hundreds and hundreds of lives, and we've educated thousands more people because of the lives that we've saved and people's interactions with them. But simply loving them is not enough, and you cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. You have to have a team. Okay? So as you think about this self-assessment, don't just think about yourself. Think about who's on your team. Who can you pull in to work with you? Nobody's going to be good at all this stuff. So think about, just question for yourself. Am I good at this, or do I have somebody who is? So here's some of the things. Ability to collaborate, working long hours with no pay, administrative skills, creativity, communication. Okay, the list goes on. We're going to talk more about each one of them, but as you can see, it's a long list. And what's really important, again, is that we have a team. Between all of us, we can do this. Okay? So on that list was passion. And I know you've already got passion because you're here. You obviously have the passion to do this work, or you wouldn't come all the way to be here. By the way, I should have mentioned earlier on, all of these photographs are thanks to Johnny Braz, and you're going to see some films of his as well, and so we have him to thank for this. And this is Maja the Fabu with Sheba behind him. These are all the animals that you're seeing here are animals at our sanctuary. So, now some of the skills on this list are easier to develop. So administrative skills, well, guess what? I used to say that I was administratively impaired. I was just lazy. I didn't understand that about myself, but it requires discipline. Financial sense, there's some great free university courses available at Coursera.org. You can learn about finances, and boy, you're going to need to know it. Okay. It'd be nice if it was all just work with the animals, but it's not. A great network. Okay, the Global Coalition of Farm Sanctuaries is going to help you have a great network. And it looks like these slides are a little bit still cut off here on the side. I don't know if there's anything we can do to fix that or not. Knowledge about farm animals. Again, the Global Coalition of Farm Sanctuaries is going to be a big help to you with this because you're going to be able to talk with other people. Most of the information out there about farm animals is wrong because it's been developed by people who want to use those animals for a specific purpose. They don't know the animals very well at all, and they certainly have never seen them living free or living their full lives. Organization. Okay, there's a great free website called managementhelp.org that can really help you with the business side of things. And storytelling, okay? These days it's all about film. It's all about film and photographs. And there's a great website called creativelive.com. If you don't know anything about filming, teach yourself or get somebody on your team to learn, okay? Get yourself a good camera and figure it out, and take a bunch of films and look at what's happening and see, is this one good, is this one not good, is this one persuasive? Can I get the animal's personality from this? And then go back and learn some more and try some more and do some more. So here's the one we're going to assess ourselves on. Ability to collaborate, long hours, creativity, communication. So what I'd like you to do if you want to take this self-assessment is take out a pen and a piece of paper and just make a little note, okay? As we go through each one of these, is this something I can do? Is this something that I have someone on my team who can do? Is this something that I'm really not prepared to do and won't be able to find anyone to do? Okay, and I want you to be honest with yourself because remember, the animals depend on you. So if you're going to go into this, you better be ready. Okay, you better be ready for the long haul. What happens when a sanctuary shuts down? What happens to the animals? Yeah, we don't know, do we? If there's not another sanctuary for them to go to, are they going to be euthanized? Are they going to be put back into the system? Are we going to save them just for that? This is serious business. So if you want to do it, absolutely do it, but make sure you're ready. Collaboration. Okay, this was a tough one for me, I'm going to admit to you. I told you I wanted to do it all myself. Are you ready to share your dream? It means sharing your ideas too. It means somebody else's ideas coming in as well. And these are Jane and Emmett in the photos there. All right, can you work long hours with no pay for years? 10 years in, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and neither one of us gets paid. It's hard work. You got to be ready to do it because you love it. Okay, creativity. Most sanctuaries are far away from other sanctuaries. Most other people who know about farm animals only know how to use them and then kill them. You're going to have to be ready to come up with brand new ways of doing things. For example, when the vet comes out and they want to treat a pig, they want to give a pig a shot, guess what the standard procedure is? They take the pig, they put them in what's called a snare to hold them by their very sensitive noses, and they tie them to a post up high so that their necks are like this and they're spread out like this and they can't move. And that's how the vet gives them their shot. Well, that's not going to work for me. And that's not going to work for any of you in a sanctuary setting. You need to figure out how to get that pig to stay still for a shot so that that vet's not going to tell you that the only way for them to be safe and for the pig to be safe is to do that. Because that's not acceptable. You need to be creative. Okay, communication. This is Eddie Traffic with Sherman. And they're really good at communicating with each other, and we need to be too. You know, I thought since I was a writer, I'd be a really good communicator, and again, I was wrong. A lot of the times I'll tell volunteers what I want them to do, and they have no idea what I just said. I had to learn to become much more linear. My brain doesn't work that way. But a lot of the people I was working with were working that way. So we need to be good enough communicators that we can figure out the other person's communication style and work in that style, not necessarily in our own. This is Dow, and next to him is Captain Schnookums Malloy and Major Teehee Jones. And they are entrepreneurial. They are trailblazers. A lot of people think that sheep just follow along, but guess what? They just follow along if they feel scared. If they feel safe, they don't do it that way. They go where they please. And we need to be ready to do the same. Obviously, we can't follow the herd. The herd's not taking care of the animals. Equanimity. You're going to face crises all the time. I'm going to tell you about one in a little bit. Oh, why is it show? Oh, I went too. Equanimity. This is Bo, by the way. Isn't this a beautiful, it looks almost like a painting because he's so far up in the air when the picture was taken, but this is him flying. We have ducks that actually fly every day and fly as far as they want and they come back home. Isn't that cool? Okay, you're going to have crises, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a crisis that we experienced just last week in a moment, but you need to be able to stay calm because, again, the animals are going to be more frightened if you're frightened, okay? Humility. You're never going to know it all. Nobody is. You're going to make mistakes every day. Some of them are really going to be lousy mistakes. Sometimes you're going to lose animals because you made the wrong choice. I once made a mistake where a rooster that got along during the day with turkeys, this is before Johnny joined the sanctuary, his name was Sam. He got along very well with the turkeys during the day, and I had these turkeys that were really kind turkeys. Their names are Tom and Jake. They're still with us. So I had to move the roosters around because they were bothering the hens, and I moved Sam in with Tom and Jake overnight in a big, huge pen with an outside space and everything else. Those turkeys killed Sam overnight. Yeah, how's that for a mistake? Here I was trying to save his life. It happens. It happens, and we need to be humble. We need to be ready to keep learning. We also need to be ready to forgive ourselves when that happens. Can't forgive ourselves unless we learn the lesson, right? Learn the lesson, do it better next time. And with that global coalition of farm sanctuaries, we're going to be able to share our mistakes, so the next person isn't going to necessarily have to make them. Okay. Leadership. You're going to need volunteers. You're going to need members of the public. You're going to need people in the community who don't have any idea why you want to save a bunch of farm animals. You're going to have to find some way to inspire them. Okay, open-mindedness. Are you ready to experience the impossible? This is Penny. And Penny had us experience the impossible with us the other day, with her the other day. She is a very old cow. She's been with the sanctuary for 7 years. She has not, we don't do any breeding. She has not had any babies during that time. In her life prior to the sanctuary, she was used as a breeding cow. Her babies were taken from her each year. And last week, the week before, we brought home a little baby calf who was born on a beef farm, whose mother had been sold to slaughter before he was ready to be weaned. He was just a few days old, and he was in great need. By the time we got to him, he was skin and bones, nothing but skin and bones, and he was almost dead. And by the way, we have a whole film about all this on the website if you want to hear more. But the bottom line is that Penny, who had not had a baby in at least 7 years and who's way too old to be considered to be able to reproduce, started lactating when she saw this little baby in need of a mother. Are you ready to experience the impossible? Patience. Things don't go on the timeline we want them to with animals. They never do. There's an old cowboy saying about horses. It's true for all animals, though. They say, anything you want to do with a horse that you think is going to take 15 minutes, it's going to take an hour. Anything you expect to take an hour, it's going to take 15 minutes. This is June. This is Mookie, the little calf I was just telling you about. Persistence. Can you keep up no matter what? So often we get these animals and they're so close to dead and they're so frightened and they're so far gone, we think there's never going to be any way. And the vets come out and tell us there's never going to be any way. And the people come out and tell us there's never going to be any way. And the farmers come out and tell us there's never going to be any way. We have to keep going anyways. Okay, resourcefulness. This is Ruckus. We lost Ruckus last year. And as he was getting older, it got to a point where he was not able to walk very well. And then he was out in the pasture with the cows stealing their hay, as he liked to do, and one of the cows butted him. And in the old days, when they went to butt him, he could move away fast enough, but in this case, he couldn't, and we don't know if that was the reason or if just his arthritis was the reason, but he stopped being able to walk. His body was working perfectly well, his organs were working well, he couldn't walk. And so Johnny is very resourceful, and we were trying to stand him up. We thought if we could just get him standing, he could build up the strength, right? We didn't have the materials that we needed to get a proper sling together for him. And so this is actually a feed bag with 2 pieces of wood and some hay bale twine. Okay. We got him standing that way. This is Duncan's eye. Can you take a long-term view and build a shared vision? See, you're going to be busy day to day. You're going to be really busy day to day. And yet, if you don't have your long-term vision of where you want to go, you're going to get so caught in the day to day that you're not going to be able to sustain the sanctuary long-term. You're going to need both. So I want to put an option out there, too, for those of you who are thinking about starting a sanctuary and starting to think maybe this seems like a lot right now. And this is Esther the Wonder Pig. I don't know if everybody knows Esther the Wonder Pig. But Esther the Wonder Pig basically was taken in by 2 gentlemen who thought she was a teacup pig, and she grew out to be a full-sized pig, living in a suburban neighborhood. And they, instead of giving her up, they decided that they were going to take good care of her. And so, in effect, they started what's called a micro-sanctuary. And there's plenty of micro-sanctuaries around, and there should be a lot more. You don't need 200 animals. It's kind of a pain to have 200 animals some days, right? Or 1,000 animals. You know, get a little piece of property. Get yourself a cow or 2. Get yourself a sheep or 2. Why not have farm animals as your companions, just like we have dogs and cats? Why not? You can build close relationships with them. You can have a beautiful life with them. You can give them a beautiful life. Let's everybody go out and get 5 acres and get 2 cows. Why not? So it's a way to either start, or it could be your further option. questions about the self-assessment before we move on? And we're going to take more time for questions at the end, too. I want to just tell you briefly about the Global Coalition of Farm Sanctuaries. There's 3 main purposes of the Global Coalition. One is to provide a safety net for the animals. Okay? There are farm sanctuaries all around the world today with people doing some kind of crazy things, and they're calling themselves farm sanctuaries. Okay. Some of them sell animals. Some of them use the animals for various other purposes and call themselves sanctuaries. Some farm sanctuaries have all good intentions and just collapse, and what happens to the animals then? Okay, so we want to provide a safety net for the animals. That's the #1 thing. We want to provide a support system for those running sanctuaries. It's hard work, and a lot of people feel really alone. We don't need to be alone. There's no need to be alone anymore. 10 years ago, there weren't a lot of sanctuaries around. Today, there are. So we're going to support each other. And we want to have a simpler means to communicate and coordinate, especially when it comes to animal rescues, but just in general. Communicate and coordinate. We can even do things, for example, like share staff, okay? Maybe there's 5 small sanctuaries that cannot afford a fundraiser, but guess what? They could each contribute a little bit, and that fundraiser could have a full-time job and a full-time salary and work 1 day a week for each of them. Lots of things are possible, right, if we work together. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this now, but this is my mind map about the Global Coalition of Farm Sanctuaries and some of the things that we want to have available. Some of these will be income streams for the Global Coalition so that it can support the other things, like having an annual gathering, having a mentoring program, a roundtable, retreats for caregivers. These things can then support the grant programs, a hotline. A lot of vets don't know, a lot of veterinarians don't know how to treat farm animals in a sanctuary setting. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they had a vet who did know how to do it that they could call? So if you want to join the Global Coalition, either as a co-organizer or just as a member, there's my email address, indra@epics.net. And you can find us on Facebook too, Indraloka Sanctuary. Okay, your mind map. Here's what I want you to do. Find yourself a quiet place after we've had this talk. Don't forget to do this. Get yourself a huge, big piece of paper. I put this off for years. Johnny was telling me to do this for years. And I put this off, and I put this off, and I didn't see the purpose of it. As soon as I did it, I thought, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. It's so much easier to put all my thoughts in one place. And it's so much easier to be creative. So get yourself a big, huge piece of poster board and start with what your central idea is. Whatever the central word is for you of what you want to do, and then you just simply start building branches, okay? Just as you've seen me do with all these other slides, just start building branches of things that you want to do and how they're connected and how they're related. Dream big. Okay. Your mind map is going to help you with your strategic plan, which I know sounds really boring and awful, but you have to have a strategic plan or you can't get people to support you. You need to know where you want to go in your future. If you don't have a strategic plan, you don't know how you're going to get there. Your business plan, oh, that sounds awful, doesn't it? A business plan. You're going to have to find a way for the sanctuary to sustain itself. We recently heard someone telling us that to just support 100 cows for 10 years, $1 million. Just 100 cows. Yeah. You're going to need to find income streams. Yes, you're going to get donations, and we're going to talk about that, but you're going to need to find income streams. So you need a business plan, and you're going to have to develop budgets too. Doesn't this stuff doesn't sound fun, does it? It can help you with your vision, though, too, and that's the fun part. That's your dream, right? And also, you're going to need to think about what's going to make your sanctuary unique. What's going to make you different? How are you going to stand out? What is it? What are your special skill sets that you're going to bring to it? That's going to help you with your branding, your communication, and your marketing. And guess what? Fundraising is marketing. Okay? So I want to talk to you a little bit about storytelling. Storytelling is going to come up in 2 places in your work. And the same stories will do both things. One is advocacy, right? Helping people get to know these animals as individuals so that they can learn about them. Your storytelling is going to do that, but it's also going to help you fundraise. I want to share with you a story of ours that, oh, I gotta get my mouse back so I can press the little button here. Aha, I think I see it. Okay, so this is Jeremiah. Oh, no, that was not Jeremiah. Johnny, can you? No, that didn't work. I just want to press this little play. Oh, God, I got it. I got it. All right.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you, its only seed. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. It's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give, and the soul afraid of dying that never learns to live. When the night has been too lonely and the road has been too long, and you think that love is only for the lucky and the strong, just remember in the winter, far beneath the bitter snows, lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose.
Jeremiah. 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 Okay, good. Okay, there's one more. You don't want the peel. Come on, Everina. Everina. Good nap, good boy.
So you can see why storytelling is fundraising. How much an easier way is there to tell people why we're doing the work that we're doing, right? And you know, we had people donate for Jeremiah, many, many people who are not vegans, who don't care about pigs, who don't think about these issues, but guess what? We are all the same at heart, and when a human being sees anyone suffering like that, starving like that, to the point where he can't even eat, he has to be fed with a syringe, you know, they feel for that. They feel for that, and they react to that. And guess what? Many of them came back to us and said that they had started thinking about pigs differently as a result of that as well, because they empathized so much. So it's two ways. You're advocating, and you're also raising much-needed funds, because guess what? It was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars just in the first couple of weeks having Jeremiah. Okay? And we've got him for the rest of his life, which we're thrilled about, but we're going to have to feed him the whole time. Okay, so a couple of things to think about. 75% of donations, this is from a Network for Good, did a global online giving study. So globally, 75% of donations are coming from individuals. Okay, so we can think about grants and other things like that, but when it comes down to it, we're going to be looking to individuals to help us with our donations. Okay, online giving has grown 50% year over year. Okay, so it's more and more and more an online forum, which is great for us for our small organizations, right? Because it gives us much bigger reach. Okay. Over 40% of donors visit an organization's website before giving, and I'm going to share with you, this is something we're learning about right now. Actually, our website is even under construction as we speak, so we're learning about how to do this part of it. 65% of your donors are going to visit your site. Okay, so that site's going to be really important to you. Okay. So how do we get people to give? Okay, so we know lots of people are giving online. How do we get them to give? Well, the first thing is traffic, okay? So that's going to be videos like the Jeremiah video that I just showed you. It's going to be e-newsletters. It's going to be your blog. It's going to be your Facebook and your Twitter and your social media. All of those things are going to drive your traffic to your website. Your website is then going to ask for an action. Sign up for this newsletter. Come to this event. Donate for this cause. Okay, you then have the opportunity to reach out and communicate with them by thanking them, right? Following up and thanking them and saying, thank you so much for donating for Jeremiah's care. He is now walking again. His leg wounds have been healed. He's learned how to wallow, whatever you're going to tell them. Make it personal. You want to engage them, okay? Because engaging them is how you're going to get them back, because you want people to keep giving. Okay, so we know we need to drive traffic to our website, but how? And where? Okay, so our effective landing page, and as I said, this is something we're working on right now ourselves. An effective landing page should have a clear, concise, repeatable message. It needs to be emotional, by the way. People respond with their emotions. That message is going to create prospects for your annual campaigns, for your major gifts. By the way, those major gifts are really important. It's wonderful to have those donations of €5, €10, €50, right? But when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, it's really nice if you can get one of those donors who can give you 100,000, right? So, and this is how you get them, by the way. It's the same process. It's building relationship. Okay. So you need a message. That's the key to all of this. Your message needs to be repeatable. Can you remember it? Can somebody else remember it? Is it neat and tidy and concise? I'm not good at concise. Okay. Is it compelling? Okay, I'm going to show you what we came up with for Indraloka. Okay. So what are the problems that we're trying to solve? Children are suffering, one problem. Solution? Indraloka Animal Sanctuary, I am safe. People are suffering. Indraloka Animal Sanctuary, I am safe. The earth is suffering. Indraloka Animal Sanctuary, I am safe. Animals are suffering. Guess what? In Indraloka Animal Sanctuary, they can say, I am safe. Concise, repeatable, emotional. And we can back it up. We're going to talk about the press a little bit, but this is a quote that we really appreciated from our local newspaper when they talked about us leading the way in teaching compassion. We think this is so important because we can never put a dent in the number of farm animals that are suffering and dying every day. In terms of just rescuing them, we can't. But we can when we start impacting the children. By the way, this is Duncan, and he loves kids. It's Nugget. I was wrong. That's Nugget. Okay, so people don't give to what we're doing. Oh, you're rescuing farm animals? Great. So what? Most people don't care. Okay. Why we are doing it. Okay, what's that emotional appeal for them? They may not care about pigs, but they care about Jeremiah. Jeremiah is then going to be the entryway to get them to start caring about pigs. But at first, what they're going to give to is that why, because that pig was suffering. Because his pneumonia had been so bad for so long that he was spewing blood out of his nose. That's what got people giving. Okay. So your fundraising and storytelling is going to lead you in several different directions. Okay. We talked a little bit about major gifts. We talked about the grassroots. There's grants as well. Those are going to vary from country to country. You're still going to need to tell your stories to your grant makers. Okay. But I want to talk a little bit about the press and community relationships. Because if you're like us, you probably live in a community where not a lot of people understand the work that you're doing or why you're doing it. So there's not a lot of opportunities for community partners on the surface of things. But if you start looking deeper and you start being creative, you're going to find some great partnerships, and that's going to really help you with the press. Because they love to cover one organization maybe, but if two get together and do something really creative, they love that. And I'm going to share with you an example of a partnership that we have with a local university's architecture program. Okay. And some press that we got from that.
Wait, that has to go in first.
Students in Marywood University's School of Architecture left their Lackawanna County campus for the Wyoming County countryside to tackle a construction project.
There we go.
They spent Thursday afternoon in Mahoopany Township putting the finishing touches on a new aviary at Indraloka Animal Sanctuary. Students are taking part in a class called Farmatecture, learning about the architectural needs on a farm. In this case, it's a site that wants a structural design with the environment in mind.
We're actually providing environmentally friendly housing that is innovatively designed and providing an opportunity to help some kids get their education.
Door people, let's get a couple people on the doors and we can get that started right away.
Under the direction of Marywood Assistant Professor Kate O'Connor, students designed and built an eco-friendly chicken coop. It features a built-in water collection system and planters from which chickens can feed. It's a valuable hands-on lesson for architecture student Monica Pacina, who just finished her freshman year at Marywood.
It's just nice to know that what we're building actually will be used and is helpful to the community rather than just a structure for nothing. Right. So it helps the animals for sure, yeah.
So much of what we do in school is all theoretical and nothing ever gets built. It's nice to actually build something and see it from start to finish.
The aviary isn't the first construction project for Marywood's architecture students to help out Indraloka Animal Sanctuary. Just last year, they built this shelter for the sanctuary's pigs. The founder of Indraloka Animal Sanctuary is especially excited about the new aviary.
We can repeat that design all along the back of this barn. So we can actually do this over and over and over again fairly simply and have that much more housing.
Yes? In Mahoopany Township, Wyoming County, Mark Hiller, Eyewitness News.
So you wouldn't think there's necessarily a clear partnership between an architecture school. Sorry? Oh, sorry, I forgot about the mic. So you wouldn't think necessarily that there's a partnership there, right? But we found a way to get help that we needed in building housing. We got the students to get a chance to actually build something and not just design it. And guess what? The press loves it. And added benefits. Couple of added benefits. One is that we serve these kids vegan meals every time they come to work, and they ask for recipes, and they start asking questions, and they have to research the animals for whom they're building. So they're spending time with the animals, they're learning about the animals, they're developing relationships with the animals, and guess what? They start thinking differently about the animals. Many of these kids over the years have come back to us and said that they quit eating meat or that they went vegan altogether as a result of this work. And not only that, but the young woman that you saw being interviewed there, her father happens to work for a bank and is helping us now with a grant application that we've got going with that bank. So you see how these things start coming together. If you look only for vegan community partners, you're not going to find nearly as many. But if you reach out and expand, you can bring them, without them even realizing that you're doing it, bring them in to work with you. Bring them in and feed everybody. Make everybody great vegan meals and things that they never expected that they would be able to eat as a vegan. Make them chocolate cake, right? Make them all kinds of good, and then tell them, oh, by the way, it's raw and it's all healthy. Wait till they're halfway through eating it. So, I want to talk quickly about our daily work, okay? And this is Maja the Fabu again here. There's a lot of daily work, and the reason that I want to bring it up here is not that I'm going to be able to tell you how to do all of it, but I want you to be prepared that you're going to have hours and hours and hours. It takes us about 6 hours a day minimum to just feed and water the animals alone. Just clean up after them and feed them and water them. Okay, that's not even getting into the financial paperwork, the community partnerships, the educational programs, the fundraising, the storytelling, the writing, the photography, the videos, right? So I want you to really be thinking about this. You've got to love it. It's not worth it if you don't love it. Okay, so every day, here are some of the things you're going to be doing, some of the things you're going to be doing. Some of these aren't going to be a surprise to you. The farm is constantly going to need your upkeep. Okay, fences are coming down, barns are falling apart all the time. Animals break things. When you set a 1,300-pound pig free, he's gonna break stuff, okay? And that's just what they do. They scratch up against things, they get into things, they're curious, they break stuff. So you're gonna have their daily care, you're gonna have the upkeep, you're gonna have the financial management, you're gonna have volunteers and staff who, by the way, take more time than the animals do. But you know what? The animals are rescuing them, and we need to facilitate the animals' work in rescuing those pathetic two-leggeds. Okay? It's true. It's true. It's not even a joke. Wait till you see. You know, these animals rescue us. It's not the other way around. We need them. I want to talk about death for just a second, because a lot of people don't think about this. They think, oh, I'm going into sanctuary work because I want to save lives. I don't think there's any work, probably hardly any work, that you can do on the planet that brings you closer to death than sanctuary work. Because the fact is that you are taking these animals from death. It's true, you're taking them from a really lousy death. You're taking them from a slaughterhouse. You're taking them from being starved to death. You're taking them from being beaten to death. You're taking them from all of these situations. You're giving them a good life, it's true, but guess what happens at the end of their lives? They're going to die. And they're your family, and they're your best friends, and they're your loved ones, and they're the people that you're closest to in the whole world. And guess what our job is? Our job is not to hold on and make it difficult for them to die. Our job is not to sit there and sob and tell them you don't want them to go. Our job is to be selfless even in that moment. Even in that moment, to be selfless and to hold them in our arms and to sing to them and to love them and tell them it's okay for them to go and make it beautiful for them. You need to make it beautiful for them. Why would you put all that time into making their lives beautiful and then at the end let it all fall apart? Giving them a good death is the biggest part of the work, and notice I put it under daily work, okay? So if you're going to have a sanctuary that's going to have hundreds of animals, you're going to have animals dying all the time, and that is part of your daily job. And guess what? You may have 100 other things to do. You may have a grant application due, you might have a group coming, you might have barns to clean, and you notice that someone's dying, that their time has come, and everything has to stop. And you need to go to them, and you need to sit with them, and you need to hold them, and you need to sing to them for as long as it takes. So, got to get comfortable with death to do this work. I've had more than 400 animals die in my arms, by the way. And you know what? I consider it the greatest blessing that I've ever experienced. It really is beautiful. So, what I want to say about animal rescue is that you're rescuing them mind, body, and spirit, okay? You're not just rescuing their bodies from the situation they're in, because these animals have been tortured. They've been tortured on so many levels. Their spirits are damaged, their minds are damaged. I don't know how many of you got a chance to see the clip of the film that we showed yesterday, but you could see those chickens in the beginning. You could see how kind of dull their eyes were, how they weren't really moving and they weren't really thinking. Okay. That wasn't just because of falling off a truck. That's what happens constantly. And oh, by the way, that's why people think farm animals are dumb, because they see that dullness in their eyes. But you know what happens to them is, and I've seen this over years and years of time, I've seen this to be true, when they're living a life where they never interact with any human being in a positive way, when at the very best that they could hope for is just to be allowed to live until they get killed at the end, okay? But the very worst is a whole lot of other abuse. Their eyes become dull. They expect us not to understand them. They expect us not to see them. They expect us not to be kind to them. Okay, so they put a veil. They put a veil to their souls, essentially. And even with each other, they're so, you know, they've closed down. They've shut down. So when they come to you, they're going to be shut down in that way. So we're going to not only have to deal with their physical rescue, but their emotional and spiritual rescue. So in terms of the physical rescue, this will be one of the choices that you make. Are you going to be someone who actually goes in and takes the animals from these situations yourself? You can have a sanctuary and just get the calls about animals that are already rescued. And that's fine. That's a good choice to make. We do both. We get phone calls about animals in need, and sometimes when we have some space, we actually go into situations and get the animals. And sometimes when we don't have space, when we hear about a situation that's happening, like this little calf I told you about. Okay, so we had to go to this farm and talk these people into letting us take this calf that was starving in their pasture. And believe me, you put up with all kinds of things when you do that. And remember now what I said in the beginning, we can't be angry. Because first of all, you're not going to get the animals out of there. And second of all, the animals aren't going to know why you're angry, so they're going to be scared. So you've got the physical rescue, which is a lot of work. And even if you don't go in and get them yourself, you're going to have the physical rescue of helping their body heal. And I have never once rescued a farm animal, by the way, where they were in good health. They've been raised on drugs, they've been raised in cages, they haven't moved around, they haven't had decent food, they've been fed the feces of other animals, they've been fed the the worst trash that you can imagine. These are not healthy beings. They were bred not to be healthy. They were raised not to be healthy. They're on drugs. They're just, I mean, the problems are endless. So you're going to have to work with veterinarians, and you're going to have to, most likely, unless you're in a place where you have some very enlightened vets, or vets who have worked at other sanctuaries, you're going to be in a situation where you actually have to train your own vets. Remember I was talking to you about the pigs. You know, the first time that I needed a chicken euthanized, I could not find a vet who knew how to euthanize a chicken. Does anybody know why vets don't know how to euthanize chickens? Take a guess. Okay, no one euthanizes them ever. How does a vet, if a vet is called to kill a chicken, how do they do it? Yes. Absolutely. So they're not considered to be worth much money, right? A farm vet visit where we live in the United States, just to get them out for a regular appointment, is about $250. Okay, so that's US dollars, so that's obviously more euros. Just to get them out there, a chicken is usually considered to be worth a few dollars, maybe $3. So that's one reason. The other thing is they do teach vets something in vet school that they need to do to kill chickens. And what they teach them is to decapitate them, to twist their necks. That's how they kill chickens in vet school. Yeah. And also because of this, vets don't know how to give a shot to a chicken. So if you say, I want my chicken humanely euthanized, they don't know how to find the vein. They're small animals. They have small veins. They don't know how to do that. And if you don't tell them, they won't realize that you need to sedate the bird first, or the bird's going to feel it and be scared, and it's not going to be good. And sometimes you just have to have an animal euthanized. If they're suffering, you have to have an animal euthanized. And where we live in the United States, it's illegal for anybody but a veterinarian to do that. So you have to teach them everything. You have to teach them everything. They've been taught, for example, our vets were taught that a steer, a neutered male cow, could never live past 3 years old. And the reason that they believed that is in vet school they teach them that they become aggressive. They become aggressive and mean and dangerous, and in fact will kill you if you let them live past 3 years old. So what happens is we have a bunch of cows that we got, steers that we got as babies that were born to dairy farms, and they grow huge. They grow until they're 6 years old. They're usually killed when they're 3 years old. So they grow to be 2,000, 3,000 pounds. And guess what? They were never bred to live that long. They have leg problems, they have heart problems, they have all kinds of things happening, and the vets think they're going to kill them if they treat them. Okay. They don't believe you can hold them, they don't believe you can keep them under control, they don't believe they're safe. So you have to train your vets every step of the way, and you have to do it in a way that they don't feel like they're being trained. So it's a challenge. It's not impossible. It's a challenge. But another reason why having this global coalition of farm sanctuaries is helpful, because now we can say to each other, hey, has anybody ever dealt with this problem? What did you talk to your vet about? How did you handle it? Right? So we can share with each other. We don't have to figure it all out by ourselves. Okay, there's also the emotional and spiritual healing. A good example of that is Abe. Abe is a little duck that we have, and I don't have a photograph of him with me today, but he is a little duck that escaped from a live market in New York. So a live market is where people go into the market and see the animals in cages and choose who they want, and then the animal is slaughtered at the spot. Oh, we are much further along on time than I thought we were. Okay, so anyway, so you're going to have to do emotional and spiritual healing. Abe was frightened of everything and everyone. He had been in a cage all of his life, and so part of the work that we had to do with him was help him learn not to be afraid. His name, by the way, is a Sanskrit word for fearless, and he is fearless today. Education and advocacy. Okay, so you're going to have the storytelling in there too. It's a great opportunity when you're doing the rescue work. Okay. So I was going to show you a little slideshow about our educational programs. I won't be able to show that to you because of our timing. I'm sorry. But I have it with me, so if anybody wants... Oh, I thought you said we had 5. We had 5 until we had 15. Okay. Well, Yeah, what do you guys want to do? You want to have more time for questions, or do you want to see the slideshow and we can always talk during lunch and things like that? Okay, because we all want to see Johnny's beautiful work, right? Okay, so this is a little bit about advocacy, okay, and how powerful it is to do advocacy with your animals and actually just let them do it. These animals heal and teach these children in ways that we never could. They leave there changed people, and guess what? Those children, in turn, they're going to change the world. They're never going to forget these farm animals and the friendships that they develop with them. Without free animal life, we will lose the spiritual equivalent of oxygen. We need them. We need them. It's easy for us as activists to forget that. We think we're doing for them. We're not. We're doing for us because we need them. Let's create sanctuaries all over the world. Let's create a place where all animal life, including us, all of us are free. I'm going to leave you with my contact information. Please feel free to keep in touch if you'd like to get involved in the Global Coalition of Farm Sanctuaries, or if you have questions, or if you just want to see more of Johnny's films, or read some stories about our work, or anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Indra. So we do actually have some time for like 1 or 2 questions. So does anyone have a question? Over here.
Thank you so much for all the advice and this wonderful presentation. I have one question. So you told us that you give home to abused animals, and then we saw animals surrounded by children and being touched. So I really would like to know a little bit about this work. How do you keep the balance between keeping the peace for these very abused and suffered animals, and in the same time giving the opportunity to children and people who come to really touch them and be close to them? So I imagine that in the beginning it's very hard for the animals. So how do you do that? Yeah,
Thank you so much for asking that question. That is a terrific question. And it's true. There is a balance to be had. One thing that I think is critical that we always talk about, which is the difference between a zoo and a sanctuary, and we tell every visitor this when they arrive, is that in a zoo, the premise is that the animals are there for us. In a sanctuary, the premise is we are there for them. So the first thing that we do is we set the tone, we make it very clear. I talk to each of the children, I tell them a story that I learned from the Ojibwe people of the White Earth Nation, which is a Native American group. They talk about the animals being our friends and our teachers and our equals. Okay? So one of the ground rules is that we require of everybody who visits the property is that they treat the animals as equals, that they come to them as they would a friend, and that they respect their wishes. So there are some animals, in a case, as you described, there's some animals that we simply don't take people to if they're not ready to see them. Other animals might choose to just walk away. And if they choose to walk away, we always make sure they have that option, and we say, let's go see someone else. If we see a child then running back up to that animal, we say, no, we respect them. If you don't feel like talking to someone, you don't want them to run after you, right? So we teach them at every moment, and we are very, very, very careful. There is always a very senior volunteer and Johnny or I with the animals at all times. Nobody is ever allowed with them unattended unless they've gone through a long period of training with us first. Very important distinction, and one that we need to be careful about, because people come to sanctuaries thinking often that they're just going to, that the animals are going to be there for them, that it's a petting zoo, and it is not at all. Good question.
Thank you. Is there another question? Here.
Thank you for the presentation, really great. My question is, how much of your work is dedicated to the animals, and what percentage is dedicated to keeping track or helping the people or showing the people around, and how much is dedicated to like office work?
That's a really good question. I've seen that what's happening, the trend is that the more the sanctuary grows, the bigger that we get and the more popular that we get, the more I have to do work that has to do with humans versus animals. So I have been actually very careful because of my own emotional health and my own spiritual needs to carve out time for myself. I have 1 day a week that nobody is allowed on the property but me and the animals. Sometimes Johnny's there. A lot of times he's not there either. He takes that day and does his stuff, you know. And I have my time alone, you know, just to recharge. But percentage-wise, Johnny, do you have any ideas on percentages? How to answer that? Yeah, it's kind of, the thing about the animals is that they need what they need when they need it. So often what you end up doing is just having a really long day and doing a lot of everything. But the office work and the tours and that kind of thing certainly grow as the sanctuary grows. What you want to do is keep pulling in your team as you're growing so that you have people other than you to do that stuff. And that's going to allow you to have the time with the animals. And the animals need that time as well.
Okay, well then I want to thank you for your talk. I think we're out of time, but like you said, Indra, you can probably talk to her later on or during lunchtime, so thank you very much.